Well, thanks for joining us on the program yet again. It's Boxing Day. Happy Boxing Day, everyone. And we're already counting down to 2024. I think there are about 5 more days to go. Marry with caution and stay safe. I'm Nifemi Oguntoye. Welcome, everyone. Our attention this morning is turned to perhaps some of the biggest political stories that we've covered in the outgoing year. And we're beginning from February 25, the much talked about 3-horse race presidential election where all the 3 big players won 12 states, but only one actually had the 25% spread in 2/3 of the nation. Very interesting development. We saw how both former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, debated that result up to the Supreme Court, which recently settled that in favor of the APC presidential candidate. Quite a number of issues followed, from the leadership of the 10th National Assembly, the elections we've witnessed thus far this year. What an amazing year it's been, but we are still here. We heard from Mr. President earlier in his Christmas Day message, acknowledging that some of his policies also that we've seen this year have really impacted on the economy of Nigerians, but it's promising that things will get better, and indeed Nigerians are counting on that. I'm joined by a former member of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Honorable Muyiwa Jimoh, who would help us, have some deep conversation on some of these happenings this year. Honorable, thank you so much for joining us. Compliments of the season to you.
The same.
Great to have you join us. So we're looking at a situation where President Tinubu had 37% of votes in February. He had 8.7 million, followed by former Vice President Atiku, who had 29%, and then Peter Obi had 25% of that vote. What would you say made the 2023 election so keenly contested the way we saw it?
Well, first of all, let me make this remark that this is the first time in history that the president that emerged, which is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we even loses his own state.
Indeed.
To the
opposition.
To the opposition, or perhaps other political parties. However that deserve may be, it is obvious that the geographical spread by the Nigerian geographical contiguity is won overwhelmingly. That shows and makes the election unique. Unique in the sense that it's home base. Peter Obi won by INEC calculation supported by statistics. But despite that, he was able to win majority of the votes in 2/3 of the federation. And Obi eventually became 3rd and Atiku came 2nd.
Indeed.
However this result may be, it is obvious that the number of times, months, and process in the tribunal challenging the outcome of the elections, it took the nations back. People may not know, but this is an obvious case that is truly, Ashwaju is well accepted by the Nigerian people. And we must have it at the back of our minds that formation of Nigeria, though our nationalists, like Awolowo and others have said, is a mere geographical expression to distinguish between those who are within Nigeria and those who are not, because it's an amalgamation of 1914, which some have assumed that it's a marriage of inconveniency. However deserved that may be, this election makes it unique from other previous elections. In previous elections, even from time of Awolowo, Azikwe, and Tafawa Balewa, every other individual will deliver his own territory. But in this case, Ashwaju lost Lagos to Obi, but he eventually
was able to consolidate.
And that makes it unique.
What do you make of what you call political popularity of the president some 8 months after? Because, we were talking about the issue of full subsidy and his attempt to unify the currency. That is making, that has impacted so much.
You see, let me first of all call our attention to this. Removal of fuel subsidy was not captured between July and December budget, which was a carryover
from the previous
government. He just made the pronouncement during his inauguration.
We changed everything because the moment he mentioned it,
yes,
we started seeing the effect
of
at the
course,
police
because from July
immediately.
From July to this present time, there was no provision for subsidy in the budget. So invariably, he inherited let me call it the crisis, quote unquote. But you can see the allocation given to local governments and states. It triples. That is, it is now left for every Nigerian to hold the state and local government responsible for whatever development they brought through the federal allocation formula that has increased their revenue has increased in terms of allocation from the federal. So that shows they have more money to do more projects. So it is now left for the citizen now to request for better governance.
All right. So, we saw
the proceed
indeed
from the fuel subsidy.
Well,
otherwise, it would have gone to the pocket of primitive accumulators.
But that means we now have to count on state governors, right?
Including the local government.
Indeed, to be able to. Well, when you say local government, they don't have real autonomy in that sense. It is the state that still determines what they get and how they administrate.
No, that is not true. There's a federal allocation revenue that allocated monies to 774 local government. Though some have argued that since Bakassi is no longer in part of Nigeria, so it shouldn't be 774 local governments again. But it is in the constitution.
As recent as this year, we still saw some local government chairmen who challenged their state governor. If you remember the story in Ogun State, about how much money they get and how these revenues are being dispersed. But let us talk about, let's get back to the election proper. We saw a campaign that divided people along ethnic and religious lines. And you mentioned it that, even from the early days of our election, people seem to get more votes from their, cultural base. But why do you think our politics is yet to evolve past ethnicity and religion?
Is Bola Ahmed Tinubu from Kano?
No, it's not.
Look at the volumes of vote that came out from Kano.
No, I'm talking about the kind of conversation we had during the campaign, which, of course, issues like where did this person come from? Who is next? For instance, one of the reasons why one of the campaigns from your party against the PDP candidate was that the outgoing president was from the north. We can't forget that in a haste. People started saying Yoruba, Ronu, and things like that. These were conversations that happened prior to that election.
Is not only
and it emphasized ethnicity and religion.
It is not only...
For instance, the Muslim ticket was a thing when Ashwaji decided to, pick somebody who's also a Muslim. I'm saying, why do you think these conversations meant so much before that exercise?
Our politics is still primitive. And secondly, apart from the primitiveness, you should understand the configuration of Nigeria, as we said earlier, that there's a professor of political science, professor of sociology, it's late now, Professor Onegu Otite, that identified about 113 ethnic groups in Nigeria. Fortunately or unfortunately, the concentration of these ethnic groups are in the northern part of Nigeria. When he published that book, we still have about the whole 21 or 26 states then. The former Gongola state, which is now Adamawa and Taraba, has 113 alone, followed by Plateau State, which is about 88 ethnic groups. So, and Aristotle in his politics, in his book, Aristotle is one of the ancient Greek philosophers that taught politics for decades, said people of similar culture, people of similar affiliation will govern themselves better. On this basis, people always assume that if you are from my ethnic group, the possibility of favoring my geographical contiguity and my immediate family. You remember, before the formation of state, it is the family. It is the origin of the family that metamorphoses into state formation.
But is that usually the case, from what we've seen in the past? I've been saying, for instance, when President Obasanjo was there were concerns that it really didn't matter whether the president was
the president, yes, because Obasanjo case was a bit different. Why is it different? His conduct, and thinking. The general Yoruba believes he has an affiliation with the North. So anything that will favor the North, Obasanjo will easily swing towards that.
But really, should that be the case?
Let me cite one example. That's one general, Adetoye or Akintoye, I can't remember precisely, was also a major general in the army. When Obasanjo was the head of state, he went to Obasanjo that majority of the key posts in your administration as head of state, that it is being taken by this northerner, and you are the head of state. Why? What is happening? Obasanjo called Yaldua. It's an interview. It's an interview on the Newswatch then. That he called Yaldua, which was the second in command, to sit down. And he said that you repeat what you have said now. And he repeated it. And the man was dismissed from the army. So it shows that Obasanjo wants to claim that he's a nationalist. That is not from a particular geographical country.
Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Because when you become the president of the Federal Republic,
you are president of all.
You're supposed to be president of all.
Yes, but you see, ethnicity, religious, parochial sentiment, you cannot take it out of politics. Except if you want to be romanticizing with the issue, pretending that it does not exist. Whereas, in practical and concrete terms, it exists.
But some say that's why we're where we are as a country. The fact that parochial thinking still...
A lot of allusion has been made. Even when I read newspaper at times and listen to comment on TVs, I discover that we are not even... In fact, some people are referring us that we should go back to 1963 Constitution. That is the best, despite it has regional constitution side by side with it. But people don't even know that one of the problems that has created by that 1963 Constitution, that the government at the central has the prerogative and they made a provision in it. I'm not just quoting out of context, that the government at the central can declare state of emergency on any of the state and the region, which was applied to the Western region crisis that happened in 1963. Yeah. And that is the constitution people are saying we should go back to. The constitution also made provision that the Inspector General of Police, that the state police, Commissioner of Police in the state and the region, takes instructions from the Inspector General of Police, which was at the center. So if we are saying that is democracy, if we are saying that is the constitution we should go back to, if we are saying that is regionalism, there's a problem.
Largely the attention has been the ability of those regions to develop at their own pace, which has been, the advantage that many people have talked about. But what I want us to discuss here is the fact that moving forward, do you think where a president comes from should enjoy any special benefit because it's from there?
Not at all. It should be properly democratized within the Nigerian geographical contiguity. But we think there are some things that does not matter, which matters. And that is how the colonial state created a bifurcated society within us. A society of those who will be empowered, those who will be disempowered, which is a class issue. And the colonial, they did it deliberately. The 1884-1885 Berlin Conference, that they partition Africa as if they are sharing cake or they are sharing a bottle of beers, is about human being, not about any other thing. It's about ourselves. And after that creation, they look on how can we govern these people outside the geographical.
But we've had over 5 decades, after colonial rule. And some would say that Africa had the opportunity to rewrite its own story. Unfortunately, we've not been able to do that.
How will we do that?
With the way we have been able to manage the resources.
They are still acting in proxy. So how do where is the freedom? That is why Nkrumah said it, that we must seek political kingdom and economic kingdom before every other thing we follow. Yet Africa, we are still wallowing. It's not only in Nigeria. Look at the sub-Saharan Africa, including the Masjid and the Maghreb region. The Maghreb region, Morocco, all this almost Arab part of Africa. We are still wallowing in poverty. An average Africa still live under $1 a day.
Interesting. This year alone, we had 2 military takeovers in Nigeria and Gabon. There are 2 failed coup. There are failed coup attempts in Guinea-Bissau and this other country, Sierra Leone. And it still boils down to the people looking for the right means of government that can help them achieve their desire, that can give value to the abundant resources that we have in Africa. But I want us to take this conversation back to Nigeria because we seem to have, deferred. Professor Soyinka recently met with the president, and in an interview with journalists, he mentioned that he had advised President Tinubu not to run prior to the election. And he said the same thing to the former vice president. According to him, he wanted younger people to take over. And my question is, how ready do you think the younger and new names are in the Nigerian political space as we've seen it now? Do you think in the next election cycle, we won't be hearing the old names again?
It doesn't matter if the younger... Well, if you look at France, the Macron is 1977. That is about 40-something years of age. It happens, but it's not about whether young or old. What is your understanding of governance? So if you don't understand governance because you are youth, you should just be given the opportunity to read so that you will take us back. A lot of people make allusion and illusion to Liberia. Johnson Sirleaf is from UN. He has acquired a lot of experience in other aspects of life. George Weah was a footballer because he entrenched a charity-based organization in the country, and he democratized whatever God has given him within his power. But what is the acumen to rule? But after
about 4 years,
it
didn't work.
They discovered that it took them out of Israel back to Egypt. They are now lamenting.
Or maybe the